So we all want that perfect, long-lasting finish for our home, right? You know, the kind that looks amazing and just lasts. And fiber cement siding, it can totally deliver that dream. But here's the thing most people miss. The success of the whole project, well, it's decided way before the first piece of siding ever hits the wall. The secrets to making it last are hiding in plain sight, but only if you know what you're looking for.
I mean, this is the goal, isn't it? A beautiful, tough home with incredible curb appeal. But getting from a pile of siding to this, it's not just about the product, it's all about the process. Believe it or not, the manufacturer's manual for this stuff is 130 pages long, and buried in there are a few rules that are totally non-negotiable. They're the difference between a job that lasts forever and one that, well, fails in just a couple of years.
So, if you want your project to look this good and stay that way, the real work starts right now. And don't worry, we've waded through all 130 pages of that manual for you. We've pulled out the 5 most critical rules you absolutely have to know before you even pick up a nail. It's all about getting the prep and the knowledge down first. First off, it really helps to understand you're not just working with any old siding. This stuff is pretty high-tech. The Hardie zone system means it's literally engineered for where you live, whether you're dealing with brutal winters or super humid summers. Think of it as custom built for your backyard. But, and this is a big but, all that fancy engineering is totally wasted if you don't nail the basic installation rules. And that leads us right into rule number 1, handle with care. Seriously, from the second this stuff lands on your job site, it's on you to protect your investment. Any damage at this stage can mess up the entire project down the line. Before you even think about installing it, your number 1 enemy is water. The rules here are super simple, but they are absolutely essential. You've got to keep the siding dry. That means storing it on a pallet off the ground. And if it's outside, it needs a waterproof cover, period. Oh, and if a piece somehow gets soaked, you absolutely cannot install it until it is bone dry. No ifs, ands, or buts. And here's exactly why that's a non-negotiable rule. Letting the siding get wet isn't just one problem, it's a domino effect of expensive headaches. First, if you install it while it's wet, it's going to shrink as it dries, leaving these ugly gaps between the boards. Second, it gets super heavy and floppy, which makes it a nightmare to handle and really easy to break. And to top it all off, you could get permanent stains on the finish. These are all expensive mistakes you can totally avoid. How you physically carry it is just as important. Look, never, ever carry these planks flat like you see on the left. It puts a ton of stress right in the middle and they can snap, or you'll wreck the finish. The right way, the only way, is to carry them on their edge. And if you can, grab a buddy and have 2 people carry it. It sounds basic, I know, but this one little tip will literally save you from snapping pricey material. All right, let's shift gears. We need to talk about what is, without a doubt, the single most important rule in the entire 130-page manual. This one isn't about how the house looks or how long the siding lasts. This is about your health. We have to talk about dust. You'll see this warning plastered on pretty much every single page of the safety section, and for a very, very good reason. This is the one thing you cannot afford to ignore. And it all boils down to understanding what this dust actually is and why it's so dangerous. So here's the deal. When you cut fiber cement, you create this super fine dust. And that dust contains something called respirable crystalline silica. This isn't like regular sawdust. When you breathe it in, these tiny, sharp particles get lodged deep in your lungs. Over time, that can cause an incurable and sometimes fatal lung disease called silicosis. And it's also been linked to cancer. This isn't a friendly suggestion. It's a serious health warning. And just in case anyone thought the first warning was an exaggeration, the manual puts it in the plainest terms possible. Following these warnings isn't about being a good contractor. It's about preventing serious injury or worse. The stakes are incredibly high, and that is why knowing how to cut this material safely is everything. Okay, so after all that doom and gloom, what's the solution? The good news is there are really clear, proven ways to cut this stuff safely. It's all about having the right tools for the job and setting up your cutting station the right way. The manufacturer makes it super easy. They break it down into a simple system: best, better, and good. The best option is using special shears or a score and snap method. This creates almost zero dust. You can even do it inside. Better is using a dust-reducing saw with a special blade hooked up to a HEPA vacuum. And good is just that saw, but really only for a few cuts outdoors. No matter what, the goal is always the same: make as little dust as you possibly can. And this is what that best method looks like in action. These are fiber cement shears. See, instead of a saw blade that just grinds the material into dust, these act more like scissors, giving you a clean cut. That's why they produce so little dust. If you can, this is the tool you want to reach for every time. Now, if you've got a lot of cuts to make and a saw is the only way to go, this is the professional setup. You've got your dust-reducing circular saw with the right blade, and this is the key part. It's hooked directly to a HEPA vacuum. The whole point of this rig is to capture that dangerous dust right at the source, the second it's made, before it ever has a chance to get into the air. But look, having the right tool is only half the battle. How you set up your cutting station is just as important for staying safe. It really comes down to 4 basic steps. 1. Always work outside. 2. Know which way the wind is blowing and position yourself so it carries any dust away from you. 3. Use that HEPA vac for collection and for cleanup. And 4, and this is a big one, never dry sweep this dust. That just throws it all right back into the air you're breathing. All right, we've covered the most important safety rules, so let's move on to the wall itself. Our last set of critical rules is all about clearances. We're talking about the specific gaps you have to leave in certain places to keep your house safe from water damage for years to come. Now, before one single piece of siding goes up, this is the absolute first rule of the wall. You have to have a properly installed water-resistive barrier. House wrap. Your siding is like a jacket. It's the first line of defense. But this barrier, this is the raincoat underneath that truly protects the bones of your house from any water that might sneak past. All right, let's talk about those gaps. They might not look like much, but they are so important for letting water escape and stopping moisture from getting sucked up into your wall. So here are the key numbers to remember. You need a minimum of 6 inches of clearance between the siding and the ground, and you need a minimum of 2 inches of clearance between the siding and any hard surfaces. Think decks, steps, driveways, and also where siding meets a roof. Getting these gaps right is what stops rot and water damage in its tracks. And there you have it, your project done right. It all comes down to handling the material with care, taking dust safety seriously, and respecting those critical clearances. These aren't just suggestions. These are the rules the pros live by to make sure a job doesn't just look good when they leave, but for decades later. At the end of the day, everything we just went over is the foundation for a pro-level installation. That beautiful, long-lasting finish you want, it's a direct result of getting these first few steps perfect. It's the prep work, the discipline. That's what really makes all the difference. That manual has 130 pages of rules, but the ones we talked about today, these are the real game changers. They're what make or break the entire project. So I have to ask, after all this, which one of these rules are you never, ever going to forget?